is y'all may have amnesia about this mandate. You know, y'all kept talking about how President Trump was reelected and it was a mandate. And y'all aren't talking about the campaign promises. The campaign promise that he made. You see, when we had the Democrats out there, we weren't promising anything about the Epstein files. For all I know, our DOJ was invested in making sure that they could continue to reveal other people that should be held liable. Instead, it was your side that made this a campaign promise. So to now say that we are playing political games when we know that he actually ran on this is a farce.
I mean, well, when you say it like that, yeah, I guess it kind of does sound like a farce. Now, normally with these videos, what I'll do is I'll show you a bunch of clips, right? And then I'll add some fun, hilarious / mildly humorous commentary, which is really just playful propaganda meant to push us infinitesimally closer to a revolution. But that's neither here nor there, because Jasmine Crockett is once again Jasmine crushing it. So today what we're going to do is we're all going to gather around, we're going to pop some popcorn, and we're going to enjoy this takedown of MAGA over the Epstein files. Remember those? Jasmine Crockett remembers.
We know that Ghislaine Maxwell has not only been transferred out of her housing in Florida down to somewhere that looks probably a little bit more like Mar-a-Lago in Texas, but now there are conversations about pardoning her. So I think that the American people should have full transparency about what took place when you're talking about someone who went in front of a grand jury and was found to have enough information to go forward and indict her, and then she was convicted, and then she was given 20 years, yet the president is in talks about potentially letting a convicted sex offender out.
You know, again, I'm not seeing anything wrong with what Jasmine Crockett is saying here. Granted, I've never formally studied anything like logic or law, but I do know a thing or two about lying. And if you run a presidential campaign where you say you're going to release the Epstein files, and then you hype up the Epstein files, and then you go, oh, actually, there's nothing in the Epstein files, or they don't exist, or it's a hoax, and then you talk to Epstein's accomplice, his main accomplice, and then you move her to a more comfortable prison, and then you even consider pardoning her. Yeah, I think that's going to remind a lot of people of Trump in that something about it smells bad. And for the record, this is why the Democratic Party doesn't make promises they can't keep. In fact, nowadays, they hardly make promises at all. They're just like, what do you want us to do? What do you want us to do something? You want us to try to stop something? But enough about that. Let's get back to one Democrat who is doing something. It's just nice to see, you know?
Number 3, I don't know if any of y'all took the time to sit down with any of these survivors, but let me be clear. These survivors have made it abundantly clear to us that there was cooperation at all levels of government, and they are talking about fake immigration papers. And they're talking about fake modeling agencies. For all we know, there are people that are still embedded in our federal government that allowed for this to take place, that were profiting from this. So yes, this is relevant to what we're talking about.
People in our government? Our government. You mean the government with the convicted felon at the top and then a whole network of like podcasters and TV hosts? You think that government is trying to protect their own from the implications of the Epstein files, to protect them from the justice they're ostensibly supposed to be enforcing? Okay, 3 for 3, Representative Crockett. Excellent job. By the way, this is the moment in her talk where I think if I was in that room, I would have been like, ooh, you know, this is kind of awkward. It's like she's describing the plot to the movie Clue, only if everybody was the culprit, which now that I think about it, I think is actually the plot of Clue. But never mind that. Let's put on our pajamas and continue with this dressing down.
The reality is this. I got a few names for you if you want to start going through names, and you tell me which one of these names you've decided to do any type of legislation behind. We've got Virginia Giuffre. We've got Annie Farmer. We've got Maria Farmer. We've got Courtney Wild, Michelle Licata, Jenna Lisa Jones, Jennifer Araz, Sarah Ransom, Shantae Davies, Carolyn Adriano. And the reality is that it's our understanding that there may be close to 1,000 victims of Epstein, Maxwell, and others. So stop playing these games and acting like you care about one particular situation. You take a situation and then you exploit what has happened to not only that person, but you exploit those families and you make it a game. Stop just throwing a random dead person's name on something for your own political expediency.
I just want to say that this naming thing that she does is incredibly brilliant because when you actually give names, it does something to your mind. It forces you to take these like amorphous, abstract ideas like the victims and to kind of separate them into concrete examples. So even if you don't know what these people look like, the name itself serves as an image and it forces your opponent into a position where they have to either like continue to cling to the abstract idea, which is really easy to hide behind and manipulate, but in doing so, it also reveals that they are hiding behind it and manipulating it, or it forces them to acknowledge that these are actual human beings, which also reveals their hypocrisy. So 4 out of 4, once again, Representative Crockett, absolutely crushing it. Please take us home.
If you want to start talking about actually solving something, then maybe we should go to the other campaign promises, the ones that allegedly gave y'all a mandate. When he said he was going to lower prices on day one, yet that didn't happen. When he said that he was going to be ending wars on day one, yet that didn't happen. Where he said that he was going to save the American people, yet that didn't happen. Because as we know, in that big ugly bill that every single one of you voted for, except for Mr. Massey, because he seemingly is the only one that's got any sense over there, y'all voted for that bill. And the last time I checked, it's driving us further into debt while kicking people off of their health care, in addition to making sure that billionaires, which I would not be surprised if we start to roll out those names, and a number of those same billionaires, because these weren't $2, well, they weren't $2 Johns. That's not what I got from the information. So stop telling us that you care. Show us that you care. Show those survivors that you care. Sign the daggone discharge petition, sit down and hear their stories, and then tell them to their faces that because your leader does not want to talk about this, that is who you have pledged your loyalty to and your fealty to, and you're not going to protect them, and you're not going to protect others that are suffering right now and others that will suffer in the future, and I will yield.
Oh, I thought you were going to do it with me. You didn't. And that's fine. Please clap. You know, it's classic. Yeah, sure. Maybe the Trump administration isn't releasing the Epstein files because they're trying to protect their billionaire friends or their colleagues. But hey, at least they're also ruining the economy, right? And maybe there is over 1,000 victims of Epstein. And maybe Epstein is a kind of microcosm for a much larger and much more abusive conspiracy. But at least the Trump administration is also chipping away at our First Amendment rights. So that's cool. And maybe they ran on a campaign where they said no new wars. But you know what's even better than no new wars? Like a couple new wars, I guess, whatever. It's incredibly cathartic and nice to see someone like Jasmine Crockett just saying what has been on all of our minds to these ghouls. And they are ghouls. Like these are ghouls. These are losers. They're creeps. They're weirdos. And if they weren't, then I think they would stand up to that ankle inflated Looney Tune in the White House. And I don't mean any offense to actual Looney Tunes when I say that, who would objectively do a better job than this administration, which is just daily dropping a anvil of stupid on the American public so that we don't know what's left or right or up or down. They're also just bad at their jobs, not unlike much of the Democratic Party, in my humble opinion. Okay, which is what makes Jasmine Crockett so special. And it's also why I hope she has a more influential role in the very near future. Because personally, I think the Republican Party, or at least the Trump administration, was kind of hoping that everybody would forget about the Epstein files in the wake of the past couple of weeks. Hence the, very large pyrotechnic budget. But that's probably for a different time. Fortunately, though, thanks to people like Jasmine Crockett, I don't think people are going to be forgetting about it anytime soon. And I think that's very good, at least in terms of where the Overton window of good and bad is, I guess, because who's to say what even is? I'll see you next week, everybody.